Rusty. Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Well, Mr. Fix-It here, and I am just getting leaps and bounds on this van. I am just getting all sorts of stuff fixed. Been really working out great. I've got this rusted spot inside where the battery was. I think it had a battery leak at some point in time, and like I just showed you, there's just a little bit of rusty floor that I cut out there. I'm going to have to build a new bracket here for the battery to sit on, but none of that should be too difficult. Inside here, I pulled the doghouse out to find the exhaust leak and found that it is right on the end of the manifold here. There's a bolt broke off on either side where this emissions, deal goes into on either side. I just gotta get a bolt out of there, and then get the high temp gaskets and then put that back on, and that will fix the exhaust leak. So that won't be too bad. Hopefully those bolts come out of they're broke right off flush, so it may be a little bit of a pain to get them out, but as long as that's not too bad, exhaust leak should be pretty good. Now, here's the kicker, and this is actually really, really fun. So last night I was working on this late, and I noticed, and I talked to the guy when I bought it. And he's a really old man. I don't know if I've mentioned that before, but he's in his 80s, and he had somebody fix the starter, but they couldn't get the starter fixed. So basically, you had to turn the key on. Let me show you. You'd have to turn the key on, and then they mounted a button over here, and by pushing that button, that's how you would start the van. And come to find out that, I didn't like that because that's not the way it was factory. There had to be a reason why the turnkey wouldn't work, the solenoid wasn't firing, or there had to be a reason. So I looked up a wiring diagram, me and my buddy, and we were starting to trace things around, and come to find out, this plug-in here was unplugged. It was just this male end was hanging here, and the female end was actually stuck right here on the side of the motor, where it looked like they'd unplugged it, and then they thought that's where it went because it kind of wedged on there. They stuck it back, and maybe they stuck it there to get it out of their way or something, and then forgot it. Well, there's a ground that runs through there that controls a lot of things. So when we put it back on there, fired it right up. So now the starter works perfectly fine. The speedometer works. The odometer works. The cruise control works. Fixed all of those things just by plugging it in. There was a fuse. Let's see if I can dig in here. Fuse panel. There's a spot. This is how good they were. They bypassed into that fuse panel for the radio. I'll be eventually doing away with that and wiring the radio in correctly. But right here is a burn-up fuse spot in the panel where something got really, really, really hot. Well, looked into that, and that happens to be the air conditioning and the heater motor. So that wasn't working at all, and come to find out, that was burned up. I was able to pull that all apart and wire in a splice in there with a fuse in it and do the right fix to bypass that. Well, to bypass that spot, not to bypass the fuse. There is a 30 amp fuse in line there, and the heater motor kicked on. It was full of a bunch of junk. I had to pull it out. Mice had built a nest and stuff in there. Heater motor, the blower motor works fine. Kicked the AC on. The AC wasn't working. I got a can of charged the AC, and it's been holding charge for the last week or so. Well, more like 4 days. And the AC's working, so fix the heater, fix the AC, speedometer, like I said, cruise control. When you went to shift this in and out of gear, the little lever down here to show you what you were in didn't work. I reached up underneath there, and it was just some linkage that was undone, so that was fixed. Really, once I get the exhaust manifold fixed and I weld in that spot for the battery, I'm done. I can get it inspected. that was basically it as far as things that I needed to get fixed for it to run properly. I'm super, super excited that everything went together and it was that simple of fixes. This exhaust is going to be a challenge, but at least I know that I don't have to pull the motor out. The horn still broke. Stinker. Wait a minute, look. There's the horn right there. And you're never going to be able to see it. But there's a wire. There's a wire that's supposed to go in there. And I'm sure if I put said wire in there, the horn's going to work. Yes! Working our way into the back, I mounted the bench seat. I built some brackets down here to mount it so that it can be removed easily like it was in the van, whichever one it came from. It's a shame that there's a hole in here where it used to have an armrest. I may have to fix that, but yeah, I made the brackets up myself. They were hard to find. I went to a couple junkyards, and a lot of these brackets in these older style vans were actually built right into the body, so without cutting things and torching things apart. So I just fabricated some brackets for there, and I have them bolted and plated to the bottom side of the van. And I didn't weld them in, not yet, just for the fact that we're going to feel how this works here. And if we know for sure it's in the right spot, then I'll go ahead and permanently fix that in there. But right now it's bolted solid in there, but gives me the ability, stinking rain, gives me the ability to change it if I need to. Oh no, it's raining in the van. Oh no. Well, I removed the giant AC unit off of the top, and if you remember from earlier videos, I said that AC unit was not working. Well, it was said to be not working, but when I went to take it out, the whole inside of the shroud and stuff in there was jam-packed full of insulation. Mice had been making a nest inside there, so I'm really, fingers crossed, once I get it, I'm going to wire it in where it sits in the garage and test it out. I think it probably works, but just didn't work because of the mouse issue. So that's another plus side to this build. I'm getting out of the rain. That's another plus side to this build, is that all of the parts did work and still do when it comes to the furnace and the refrigerator, the AC unit, hot water pump or hot water tank, and then the water pump and all of the tanks and all of that stuff. Everything was still in working order. There was all of these little things wrong with the van itself running wise, but here in a couple days, I'm pretty much going to have all of that stuff fixed, which takes this, and big thumbs up to that. I got a couple comments from you guys wondering why I got such a, crappy kind of van. Well, I had a good feeling about some of the fixes and that I was going to be able to take care of that. And I had a couple comments why I just didn't buy a cargo van. When researching and getting a van, and here's another tip for you guys thinking about it, those cargo style vans really hold their value quite well. And for me to buy a cargo van that had, was relatively rust free like this is, and had a lower mileage, it was much more than I paid for this. I mean, you could get a cargo van for with a little bit of rust on it with 200,000 miles and still have to pay $5,000 for the van. So I was not able to find something relatively inexpensive to start with. This thing here worked out really well. And now that I'm starting to fix it and stuff, I think it was well worth the buy. And one of these videos, one of these update videos, I'm going to go through and I'll list all the finances of, what we paid, what we have into all the parts and stuff. And I'll break it all down here at the end once we know, more about it. But as far as that goes, I think I got a good deal. A little bit of advice for you guys that are thinking about, tackling a project like this. If you want to save some money and you want to get something that needs a lot of fixing because you don't have the money to buy something that's ready to just do the conversion or a remodel or something like that. If you buy something like this, try not to get overwhelmed by the list of things. You know, when I started this, there was a long list of things to do, and it's very easy to look at that and just go, oh, we got to do all of that. Next thing you know, it overwhelms you, and you end up being like, no, I want to sit on the couch and eat Pop-Tarts. And then you sit on the couch and eat Pop-Tarts, and you don't get anything done. So just take a look at that list and grab one thing, and then just do one thing. And one thing at a time, you'll eventually start to tick things off the list. If you look at it as a whole, it can be overwhelming. You know, with all of that stuff I had to tear out of there, you know, you look at it all and it's like, wow, I have so much to do. I would look at it and go, okay, there was a drawer right there. I got to take that drawer out. And then you take the drawer out and you don't worry about anything else until that's out. And then you choose the next thing to remove or the next thing to fix. And by breaking it down, it just makes it so much more easy to think about. I mean, it looks like you're actually accomplishing things and that it's actually possible. You know, another quick bit of advice that I just thought of while I was sitting here smashing on this piece of steel is, I don't even know if I'm doing this right, but I'm still going to try, because in order to save a decent amount of money, you got to do a lot of things yourself. And the best way to learn something is by doing. So my advice would be, don't be afraid to do something wrong. I do a lot more things wrong than I ever do right, but you have to try, and then you learn from those mistakes, and then by learning from your mistakes and eventually doing it right, you've learned a certain skill, whether it be welding or whether it be plumbing or electrical work. I mean, without trying, you're never going to learn. And a lot of times, if you don't know and you try, you will fail. So don't be afraid of making mistakes, because learning from your mistakes is just how you get better. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this update video. I hope that you've enjoyed it, and stay tuned for the next update. Bye-bye. I like it, I dig it, I want more of it.